Guys, Tarke here, and today I'm going to be giving a breakdown of the character I'm planning on playing for the upcoming Turmoil, which starts in exactly 1 day. However, if you're seeing this on the YouTube, which you are, the Turmoil event has already started because this is a scheduled release. This is a build which takes some inspiration from a character Rise played, so I've got some footage from Rise's guide floating in the bottom, and I will also leave a link to Rise's guide so you can kind of see how he did things. So this build is built around 2 core trickery duos. 1 is Blight and 2 is the Blade Vortex Decay setup that Rise is utilizing in his build. Now, he did a dual obliteration build. I play duo, and I'm going to be playing alongside a crit cleave Glad. Because of that, I'm going to be like a half support DPS. I can play perfectly fine solo, but he will be doing most of the heavy lifting when I'm mapping with him, and I'll be providing curse support. I'll also be adding a lot of defense, and the fact that Blight gives massive slows. I'll be using Abyssal Cry for slows, and obviously a big juicy temp chains, and I will be offering Kane a super vulnerability. So my real job is just to help clean up mobs. Kane is providing gratuitous violence explosions. I'm providing Abyssal Cry and Profane Bloom explosions. I'm not going obliteration. I'm just going to be using a Bright Beak so I can stay nice and mobile, shield charge around all over the place. And yes, so that's kind of the core ideas. So what is this Blight, what is this Decay setup which I found so interesting about Rise's build? So, Decay, if you don't know, it's a support gem, and it supports any skill that hits, and it adds just a degen effect. When it was added in the beta, it was completely and utterly broken. It then got very heavily nerfed, and no one really touched it. Rise did a lot of messing around with it, and what he was doing was he was using a 1-stack Blade Vortex. It doesn't matter how much damage the Blade Vortex does. If we go into Blade Vortex scaling, we don't care about any of this. We only care about the decay damage. We could be using a level like, 50 Blade Vortex. It doesn't matter. The only thing which matters is the decay. So, because decay builds always scale a bunch of increased duration, and you get a bunch of free increased duration in this build, since we root down here, you just do a 1-stack Blade Vortex, and as you're just running through the map, doing your normal Blight setup, doing your normal Abyssal Cry setup, you're applying this juiced up decay. Also, because of the Allopathy gloves, which grants a level 22 Blight skill in the gloves, you always do these for your Blight setup, meaning your chest is just floating for whatever. So if you just have a 5-link chest, you would just go Blade Vortex, Void Manipulation, Efficacy, Decay, Swift Affliction. If you can 6-link your chest, you can then throw your Abyssal Cry in with that, and your Abyssal Cry will benefit with some of these supports. We don't really need the Abyssal Cry to help, but it's just, I may as well do it since I'm playing the pseudo support. It's just additional map clear, and it also helps ensure my build scales into the larger group scenarios, since you will try and pick up stragglers from groups. You have a few people that we might potentially pick up along the way. So since all of this stuff is percentage health based, and this will all be in conjunction with Profane Bloom, which is percentage health based, as long as we can kill kind of one mob, our 2 builds together have pretty good synergy. And if you don't know, gratuitous violence is a very similar thing, where, again, it is percentage of max life as Fizz for him. Now, one of us has to get the kill, so whichever one of us gets the kill, we will have some form of explosions. Feels good, man. Now, you'll notice this is a hybrid build. I've planned both my hybrid and my CI variants around level 95, and with fairly achievable gear. All of the rares are just kind of a mix of tier 3 rolls, a few fairly accessible early unique items. Nothing that the only very crazy thing on here is a gull, but you also need to remember that gull have increased drop rate with all the thermal modifiers. If I can't get my hands on a gull, then I can just use a rare, or I could use a vertex, or so on and so forth, to get an additional +1 for my curse and my discipline setup. But you're looking at roughly, let's say, 4k life, 6k energy shield, with very minor build setup, very moderate budget. Seems pretty solid. And then the goal would be around sort of day 4, day 5, as I get a little bit of currency floating around as more high-level bases become available, to then transition into a CI build. Yes, CI in a relevant year, but in which case I will be floating about 10k energy shield quite easily. Obviously, you know, like this heavy DPS cluster at the end, we can get this last. So I will have access to all of my ES nodes by 90. At the absolute top end, I should have access to all of my ES nodes. And again, with fairly just kind of like pick up a few cheap uniques, and then a couple of rando rares here and there. This is a pretty unique heavy setup. Obviously, you can swap things around. But yeah, we went for, again, Brightbeak just to stay map clearing around. Seems good, seems good. A decent-ish shield, nothing that cray-cray. Vertex, or you can just go for like a half-decent Hubris Circlet. Doesn't make too much of a difference. The nice thing about the Vertex is, again, you get the +1 for your curses and your discipline. Beast Special, it gives me a little bit of damage on my Blight. It has a good amount of base energy shield. It gives me a bit of air of effect. It also gives me increased energy shield recovery rate, which is very nice. 5% increased damage taken is annoying, but I have so much energy shield recovery rate in conjunction with Wicked Ward and Vile Bastion that my ES regen should be absolutely insane. We also have Zealot's Oath and a nice bit of regen on the tree itself. So it all seems pretty good. Obviously, Allelopathy, Sintrek are really nice budget booties. And they give a boatload of energy shield. They also give you some dexterity, which helps with stat requirements. And they also give you some int, which scales int. And they're 30% MS boots. I can go for a Chayula Ami, although I don't think it's really needed, in all honesty. With the Brine King and then Vile Bastion. Vile Bastion, I can't be stunned well on full energy shield. And then with Brine King, I'm not going to get chain stunned. I think it will be fine. If I feel like it's a little bit iffy, then I can just pick up a Eye of Tula for all of 1 alchemy and be completely and utterly fine. But I'm trying to get away with it without it, since you can get very juicy, just like easy resists, percent energy shield, flat energy shield stats, and you know, ES gear costs absolutely nothing because who the hell plays ES? Just some half decent rings with like good int roll, good ES roll. The CI gears are like tier 2 bases. For belts, you have a few interesting options. Bated Breath is a very easy budget option, but there's also Ascent from Flesh. Ascent from Flesh gives a bunch of flat evasion, energy shield, all res. You have phasing if energy shield recharge has started recently, and you get additional dodge and movement speed while phasing. So this is actually a really solid and very underrated belt. The advantage of Bated Breath, however, is that it has a ridiculous amount of increased energy shield recharge rate. In fact, it has so much increased energy shield recharge rate that if we look at our... where is it? Yeah, if we look at our recharge rates, we've got kind of a lot. So we have apparently 8,000... You can't see that because Rise is in the way. Lol. We have 8,866 energy shield per second with a recharge delay of 1.74 seconds. In conjunction with Wicked Ward, with our energy shield recharge not being interrupted by damage, and the fact that we get 0.5% of energy shield recharge per second for each enemy you've killed recently, and the fact that we have Zealot's Oath with something like 1, 2, 2.4, 3.1% regen there, and we use the Sulphur Flask, so if we send the Sulphur Flask, we're looking at like 7% regen, and the fact that you have Pantheon for Tukahama, which gives up to another, what, 2% life regen while stood still, and you're stood still while blighting. Yeah, we have, like, a lot of regens, and we still have a nice energy shield value. You'll be floating, say, at the bare minimum, 8k, but realistically, 10k is very achievable. And it's all goody goods. If you can get hold of an energy from within, you can swap out this jewel from an energy from within, get about 400 more flat additional energy shield, and then just move your spreading rots around, slap it into this jewel. Again, I've just planned it around very easy jewels. This is just resist double damage. You could go for increased damage, chaos damage, damage over time, elemental resistances, maximum life if you're hybrid, maximum ES for the ES variants, attack speed just to move faster, cast speed, spell damage while holding a shield, blah 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 blah. One thing which is very important to note, so you're kind of going, why haven't you routed through AoE? area damage doesn't actually affect decay damage, if you see, and it also doesn't affect blight damage. For some reason, they decided that blight doesn't do area damage, so because of that, we just route efficiently through this, and we have actually pretty solid AoE on our blight, if you see that here. So that's like a pretty decent radius of 40, with very little investment. That's with no fancy buffs up or anything. That's just in a 4-link. So that should be plenty that I really don't need to then waste 2 skill points just to eke out 1 additional radius. I really do not think it is worthwhile. So yeah, that is a rundown on what I'm planning on playing. If you see me playing something else during Turmoil, that means I died. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but yes. Thanks again, Rise, and again, a link to his build will be down below, and a link to my pastebin will also be down below. The main differences in our 2 setups: I'm planning on min-maxing this. He was doing a transitional character and something else, and he was going full obliteration memes. However, personally, I don't think for the group setup that me and Kane are going for, the obliterations are really worthwhile, since all they do is increase the chance of corpse detonation, but we already have plenty from gratuitous fights, etc. So I'd much rather just have substantially faster map clear through the use of Brightbeak. Also, an important thing to note is the obliterations do not scale your decay damage, since they only give spell damage. Spell damage does not scale obliteration, but the spell damage implicit, of which you get 70% from dual wielding them, will scale your blight slightly. But to counteract that, if you really want to, you can just get a spell damage shield, or in the case of the hybrid setup, use a Wrath Pith, which has 60% increased spell damage on it if you get a well-rolled one, which already basically matches the obliterations, and you get some energy shield, and you get some life, and you get some resists, and you get to use a Brightbeak, or a DPS one-hand if you want to. You get my point. Basically, I'd rather shield charge around and get Fortify and all of this juicy juice. Bye.